I never dreamed of camping, but when Jake shouted, "Let's go to Vermont for the weekend. Just us, nature, and freedom," I went, because I always went with him, even when my heart no longer wanted to be silent, even when I knew that this time, silence would not save me. I never planned to say yes, not to the trip, not to him, definitely not to the version of myself I became when he was around. But when Jake leaned across the bench that afternoon and said, "Let's disappear for a weekend. No phones, no people, just us," it wasn't a question. And I didn't say no. I never did. 2 days later, I was in the back seat of his beat-up Jeep, windows down, air thick with July heat, wondering how I'd let him talk me into this again. Trees blurred past like a green tide. The road narrowed. My gut clenched tighter the deeper we went into the middle of nowhere. "Trust me," Jake grinned. "This place is unreal." I didn't trust the woods. I trusted him. And maybe that was worse. By the time we reached the trailhead, the cell signal was gone. So was any illusion of comfort. I hadn't hiked since high school, and back then, I nearly passed out halfway up a hill. Now we were facing 6 miles into the forest with a pack that pulled on my shoulders like guilt. Jake didn't seem to notice. He never did. "Come on, Alex," he called from ahead. "Adventure awaits." I hated that word. Adventure. It always meant he'd feel alive while I tried not to choke on my anxiety. But I followed. I always followed. At first we talked. Mostly him. Mostly jokes. He filled silence like a reflex. I answered with short laughs, trying not to show how fast my heart was racing from the incline. Sweat pooled between my shoulder blades. My lungs burned. Jake walked like he was born in the trees. "You okay back there?" he called. "Define okay," I panted. He slowed until we were side by side. "Want to turn back?" The way he said it, casual, easy, like it didn't matter either way. But I knew it did. I wasn't going to be the guy who quit. Not with him watching. "No," I said. "Let's keep going." Jake smiled. Not the wide one he used around people. The quieter one, just for me. We kept moving. The trail narrowed. Pines leaned in, close and quiet. I kept my eyes on the back of his neck, the way his hair curled slightly at the edge, damp from heat. I told myself to stop staring. I didn't. It took hours, but we made it. A clearing opened up like someone had carved it out of the earth with a blade. Beyond it, a lake stretched silver under the fading light. Smooth, still, untouched. "Holy crap," I breathed. Jake dropped his pack and turned to me, triumphant. "Told you." He always said that. And somehow he was always right. We didn't speak much while setting up camp. The quiet between us had shifted. Not awkward, just loaded. Every time our hands brushed, I felt it. That flicker, that weight. As the fire crackled later and the light dipped into amber, Jake leaned back on his elbows and said, "Glad you came?" I didn't look at him. Couldn't. "Yeah," I said. "I am." He nodded, satisfied. But the air didn't relax. Something was building. I felt it in the way he kept stealing glances when he thought I wasn't looking. In the way his laugh had quieted. Like even he didn't know what came next. It had always been like this between us. Close. Too close. But never crossed. We lived in the in-between. Half jokes, long stares, 1,000 almosts. That night in the tent, side by side in our bags, I lay awake, listening to his breathing, watching the faint glow of moonlight through the canvas. My hand lay inches from his. I didn't move it. Neither did he. The sun was already high by the time I stepped out of the tent. The air felt heavier than yesterday, thick with the kind of heat that made everything slow down. Jake was crouched by the fire pit, poking at damp ash like it had offended him. "Morning, sunshine," he said without looking up. "You're way too cheerful for someone who slept on a rock." "Nature's mattress," he replied. "Terrible support. Great views." I tried to laugh, but it stuck somewhere in my chest. I hadn't slept. Not really. I'd laid there in the dark, hyper-aware of the inches between us, the ones I hadn't dared to close. Jake had fallen asleep quickly, like always. His breathing was steady. I'd counted the rhythm until I lost track and had to start over. Now we moved through the motions of breakfast, like we were pretending nothing had changed. But something had. I felt it every time he got too close. Every time I caught him glancing at me and looking away just a beat too late. "Want to check out the ridge today?" Jake asked. "There's a view. Worth the climb." "Sure," I said. We hiked in silence for the first mile. The trail narrowed and sloped up, forcing us single file. Jake led, and I followed, watching the way his shoulders moved as he shifted his pack. The heat pressed down harder with every step. Sweat soaked my shirt. My breath came faster, but not from the climb. Eventually, the ridge opened. Trees fell away into a sharp drop, and beyond it, the world stretched wide and green. Hills rolled into the horizon, lakes glinting like scattered coins. Jake turned, grinning. "See? Told you." He always did, and I always let him. We stood there for a moment, both catching our breath. Then he reached for his water bottle and passed it to me without a word. Our fingers brushed. I froze. His didn't. "You've been weird today," he said quietly. "I'm always weird." "No," he said. "This is different." I didn't answer. I couldn't. The words were all stacked up behind my teeth, but none of them would come out right. He sat down on a flat rock and gestured for me to do the same. "Talk to me, Alex." I sat beside him, not touching, but close enough to feel it. The pull. "I don't know how to say it." "Try." I stared at the sky. The clouds drifted slow and harmless above us. "I don't think I can keep pretending." He turned toward me. "Pretending what?" "That it's just friendship. That I don't feel more." Silence, not the awkward kind. Not yet. Just stillness, like the world had paused to hear what came next. Jake didn't speak right away. His hands rested on his knees. I couldn't tell if he was angry or confused or something worse. Then he said, "I thought maybe I was imagining it." I blinked. "What?" "All of it," he said. "The way you look at me. The way I catch myself looking back." He laughed, but it was short, nervous. I didn't want to mess this up. My pulse thudded in my ears. "Did you feel it too?" "Yeah," he said. "I did." The words felt too big for the space between us. Too real. We sat there for a long time. Neither of us moved. Then he added, "But I don't know what that means. I've never—" He stopped, biting the words off like they tasted wrong. I nodded. "Me neither." He looked at me again, and this time he didn't look away. "I'm scared," he admitted. "I was too." We started walking back just before the sky darkened. Clouds rolled in fast, heavy with rain. By the time we reached camp, thunder growled low in the distance. Jake dropped his pack under a tree and looked up. "We should cover the gear." The first drops hit the ground. Then it poured. We scrambled for the tarp, laughing between shouted directions and soaked clothes. By the time we got it up, we were drenched. "You good?" Jake called. "I'm fine," I shouted, though my shoes squelched and my hair stuck to my face. Then I slipped. One moment I was upright, the next I was in the mud. Wind knocked out of me. Jake was there in seconds, kneeling beside me. "You okay?" he asked, breathless. "Yeah, just bruised my pride." He offered a hand. I took it. He didn't let go. We stayed like that, hand in hand, rain soaking us both, the air between us charged and unsteady. And something cracked. Not with a kiss. Not with anything obvious. Just the way he looked at me then. Like everything we hadn't said had already been spoken. When the rain slowed, we sat beneath the tarp, shoulder to shoulder, silent again. But this time it wasn't heavy. It was electric. We had crossed a line, quietly, without meaning to, and neither of us knew how to go back. The storm passed by morning, but it left a silence behind, heavier than the clouds. Jake barely spoke. He moved through camp like it was just another day, like last night hadn't happened at all, like the rain hadn't washed away more than just the dirt. I watched him from across the fire pit, waiting for him to look up. He didn't. "We should head out soon," he said, voice clipped. I nodded. "Sure." The hike back felt different, less like we were going somewhere, more like we were leaving something behind. Jake kept his pace fast, barely glancing over his shoulder to check if I was still following. I was, but something inside me was dragging. We reached the ridge again just before noon. The sky was clean, but the wind had teeth. Jake stopped near the edge, adjusted his pack like it was the only thing that mattered, and finally looked at me. I need to say something. My stomach turned. Okay. He kept his eyes on the horizon. I don't know what last night meant. I nodded slowly. Me neither. He exhaled hard. And I don't want to make this complicated. That word stung more than I expected. It's already complicated, I said. He finally looked at me. I'm not ready for all that. All what? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Jake hesitated. Labels, expectations, judgments, any of it. I stared at him. You think I'm asking for all that? I don't know what you're asking for. Neither did I, not exactly. I just knew I wanted the way he looked at me last night to mean something. I wanted it to be more than a moment swallowed by silence. I just wanted honesty, I said quietly. Jake rubbed the back of his neck. I'm trying. Then say what you're really thinking. He met my gaze. I'm scared. So am I. His expression cracked. For a second, he looked like he might say something real, but then he shook his head and turned away. We should keep moving. That was it. No explanation. No apology. Just another retreat. I followed him back down the trail, but something had shifted. Not like yesterday, when the air was charged and uncertain. This was different. Hollow. Like we'd broken something by not naming it. At camp, we packed in silence. My hands moved automatically, folding the tent, stuffing gear into bags, but my head spun. I kept replaying the same scene. His hand in mine, the weight of that pause, the look he gave me before letting go. By the time we zipped up the last pocket, Jake finally spoke. You mad? I looked at him. Should I be? He winced. I didn't mean to lead you on. You didn't. I paused. You just didn't stop it either. His shoulders dropped. I didn't know how. I nodded. Then we're both guilty. He looked like he wanted to fix it, to make a joke or throw out some casual line that would reset everything. But the words didn't come. Instead, he said, You're my best friend. And that's the problem, I replied. Jake didn't answer. He just turned, picked up his bag, and walked. We didn't speak again until we reached the parking lot. The truck looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe we'd just grown too big with everything we hadn't said. We threw our packs into the back, slammed the doors, and sat. The engine rumbled, but neither of us moved. He stared straight ahead. I don't know how to be normal around you anymore, he said finally. Then maybe we stop pretending we're supposed to be. Jake looked at me then. Really looked. Like he was trying to recognize something in me he hadn't seen before. Maybe he did. Maybe that's what scared him. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't mean to hurt you. I know, I whispered. But you did. The ride home was quiet, not peaceful, not even awkward, just empty. Each mile stretched the distance between us wider than the forest ever could. When he dropped me off, he didn't get out of the truck. See you around? He said. I nodded, but neither of us believed it. I didn't hear from Jake for 4 days. No messages, no calls, no signs he was even still in the same city. Just silence, thick and intentional. I tried to keep busy. Work, gym, errands. But every quiet second dragged me back to the woods, back to that firelight, back to the moment we stopped pretending and still didn't say the truth. On the 5th day, he showed up. I heard the knock and knew it was him before I opened the door. Jake stood there with his hands in his jacket pockets, eyes darting to the floor, then to me. I didn't know where else to go. I stepped aside. He came in. He didn't sit. He just stood there, shifting his weight from foot to foot, like even being in the room made him restless. I've been thinking, he said. So have I. Jake took a breath. You said I hurt you, and I keep replaying that. I never wanted to be that guy. You're not that guy, I said. You're just scared. He nodded. I am. The pause stretched. I was scared too, I added, but I still showed up. He flinched a little, like the words hit harder than I meant, but I didn't take them back. Jake finally sat on the edge of the couch, elbows on knees. I've never felt that way about someone before. Not like that. Not with a guy. I leaned against the wall. And I don't know what that makes me. Maybe it just makes you honest, I said. He looked up. Or confused. I shrugged. Those two aren't opposites. Jake ran a hand through his hair. It's not just about us. It's what comes next. My family, my job, the guys. They don't exactly wear pride flags. I didn't ask you to come out, I said. I didn't even ask you to choose. I just wanted you to be real. Jake nodded. And I wasn't. I didn't say anything. He stood again, paced a little. That night, when you took my hand, it felt like something cracked open, and for a second I let it. I let myself feel it. That's all I needed, I said quietly. Jake turned. But then I thought about what happens after that, and I panicked. I thought, if I pretend it didn't happen, maybe I can put the lid back on. Did it work? He shook his head. No. Jake stepped closer. I've been lying to myself for a long time, about a lot of things. You just happened to be the person who made that impossible. That hit harder than I expected. I didn't mean to mess up your life, I said. You didn't, he replied. You made me look at it. We stood in that silence for a long moment. It wasn't cold this time, just heavy with things that might still be possible. I don't know what I want, he said finally. That's okay, I said, but don't run from it. Jake nodded slowly. I don't want to lose you. I took a breath. Then stop disappearing every time things get real. Another beat passed. I'm tired, he said, of hiding, of pretending, of waking up and putting on someone else's skin. He sat down again, this time with less tension. I'm not ready to stand on a rooftop and scream it, he added, but I think I'm ready to stop lying to you. I sat next to him, careful not to close the distance too fast. Start there, I said. That's more than most people ever do. Jake looked over. Can we just be whatever this is, without naming it yet? I nodded. As long as you don't pretend it's nothing. His voice dropped. It's not nothing. That night we didn't talk much more. No big gestures, no fireworks, just the quiet of something broken starting to shift into something else. Maybe not fixed, maybe not defined, but no longer hidden. Jake didn't move in. He didn't suddenly change. No dramatic speeches, no social media posts, no rainbow flags on his car. But he stopped pretending. The next few weeks were quiet in the right way. We met in familiar places. No secrets. No more disappearing. Sometimes he'd hold my hand under the table. Sometimes he wouldn't. I didn't push. He was still unlearning years of silence. I wasn't going to rush him through it. But one afternoon, something shifted. We were grabbing coffee after his training shift. One of his coworkers walked in. The guy saw us sitting close, noticed how Jake didn't flinch or move away. Jake nodded at him like it was just another Tuesday. That was all. When the guy left, I leaned in. You didn't panic. Jake gave a small shrug. I don't want to waste more time caring about people who wouldn't show up for me anyway. That was new. Real. I could tell something in him had cracked for good. Later that week, he asked if I wanted to come to his cousin's cookout. I blinked, surprised. You sure? He nodded. I'm not ready to call you my boyfriend out loud, but I'm ready to stop pretending you're just a friend. That's not what you are? I said yes. The cookout wasn't dramatic. His family didn't throw chairs or ask questions. Most probably didn't notice or care. But Jake stood next to me the whole time, and that was all I needed. That night, he dropped me off and didn't rush to leave. Before getting back into his truck, he paused. You asked me once what I wanted. Yeah? I want to build something real, even if it's messy, even if it takes time. I didn't say anything at first. I just opened the door wider. He stepped in without asking. The next few hours weren't about defining things. We didn't draw lines or make promises. We just existed together, without fear. It felt like peace. Not perfection, not clarity, but peace. Weeks passed, then months. We had bad days. There were moments Jake still pulled back, went quiet, and there were days I got tired of being patient, but we always came back to the same truth. He wasn't running anymore. One night after a long shift, Jake crashed at my place. We were half asleep when he mumbled, I told my sister about you. I blinked, half dreaming. What? She asked why I smiled different lately, so I told her. What did she say? She said, took you long enough. We both laughed, quiet and full. Eventually, people stopped asking what we were. We never gave them an answer. We were just us. whatever that meant. And one morning, months later, when we were driving out past the edge of town, he reached across the center console, took my hand, and didn't let go. No one was watching. No one needed to.